My walking stick came in today. I couldn't wait to get on a walk so I could use this. I know I look crazy, but I like it, man. I like it. Was able to come up with a good concept and video for today. I'm gonna go down and visit my dad. I was actually supposed to go down and visit him anyway today, just because he was asking for me to come and do some filming for his nonprofit organization. And so I'm gonna go down there and visit him and shoot that. But while I'm down there, we're gonna get some advice. We're gonna talk to him and get some context and get some, just some solid advice from someone who has experienced quite a bit. So he doesn't know this yet because I haven't told him, but I'm gonna reach out to him before I leave. I have something to do at Virginia State University, so I'll be over there this morning. And then I'm gonna head over to see my dad. He's actually being interviewed by the news this morning as well. So it's a pretty big day for him. And I'm gonna make it even bigger by asking him to do this. But the concept is being in free fall, what it looks like to be a good steward of your life, of what you've been given, right? And when I was walking this morning, the first song that came on was the instrumental to the song Free Fall. I just wanna let go, free fall. I don't know if you ever heard that song before, but the instrumental came on, and it was like the first song that came on, but then it came on twice for some reason. I don't know why. I realized that I really have been living in free fall, right? If you don't have guardrails up, if you don't have things in place to keep you on track, you are pretty much in free fall. And so what does it look like to not be in free fall? What does it look like to have good guardrails? I'm gonna ask my dad this in our episode today, and I'm gonna get some solid advice. Oh, one more thing that I realized about yesterday. I realized that I left yesterday up to chance. So I left it up to okay, because if I didn't wake up when I woke up, I would not have been able to accomplish the things that I accomplished that morning before the shoot. And I didn't have an alarm set for me to wake up at that time. I just woke up at that time. And I think there's a healthy amount of allowing things to work. Like today, I would not have thought about, going to see my dad to do this film if I had a plan. But I think you need to leave space for things to happen, but you also can't just allow things to just happen in chaos or just by chance. It has to be intentional. It has to be designed. It has to be by design in order for you to actually get to where you're trying to go. Otherwise, you're just going to end up anywhere. So, yeah, that's what I thought about on my walk today. I'm about to finish up. I just finished 3 miles. I'm almost home. So, yeah, let's get this episode started.
Yesterday wasn't by design, it was luck. I woke up on time, got my business done, checked all the boxes, but I missed a big opportunity with a deadline yesterday that just slipped past me. And that made me sit with this question. Am I stewarding what I have been given, or am I just in free fall, hoping that everything works out? Today's theme is stewardship, doing things by design instead of chance. And I'm not alone on this one. I've got my dad here today, and he is a minister and the director of a nonprofit. You also do other things as well, but you are doing the nonprofit with Operation Breakthrough, and that's where we are today. And wanted to walk with you today about what it means to be a good steward.
Good topic. Looking forward to the conversation.
Walking this morning, one of the the songs that came on, it was an instrumental. I like to walk with just music and not voices.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of like the opportunity for me to free space in my mind comes from that walk. And I've also talked about like the opportunity to sit down or just find something that allows you to do that on a consistent basis. And that's my thing. But I was walking and the song Free Fall came on, and I heard the song a million times before, but as the instrumental was playing, I was singing the song in my head. I was like, is this the song Free Fall? And it was like, yeah. And that kind of prompted me to think about like what happened yesterday, right? I woke up pretty much in the middle of the night. I got some great sleep. I woke up at like 1:30, and I was like, what do I have to do today? And as I started to think about what I had to do, I was like, I need to get up now and start doing that process of getting ready to do that, or else those things won't get done. Mm-hmm. And so it also prompted me to think about like just what do I need to do to be in a position where I'm not waking up in the middle of the night by chance to schedule and do what I need to do. I've thought that through before I've gone to sleep. I've planned out my day, or I have guardrails in place that allow me or ensure that those things don't happen. So that prompted me to say, hey, yesterday was pretty much by luck. It wasn't by design. Have you had any experiences like that growing up, or even in your childhood of where, or moving into adulthood, where you were like, okay, at like this point in time, I'm never doing that again, or like I have to, have you ever had any experiences like that?
I've definitely had many experiences like that through the years, and I'll be honest with you, not one of them, particular one, comes to mind at the moment, but definitely there are many times where I've gotten up, or I've realized after the fact that I should have done something and I didn't do it. And so in those moments, you're like, gosh, just missed an opportunity, or gosh, I wish. But my mind almost immediately goes to, I'm not going to let that happen again. Or, gosh, how do I make up for what just happened? And that's again a personal challenge of mine to there. One of them is, okay, well, what can I do differently to avoid this from happening again? And then how can I minimize the damage? And those two focuses have helped me sort of, get past that blown opportunity to what's the next thing, right? You can't, there's the old phrase, you can't cry over spilled milk, right? Mm-hmm. It's spilled, it's there, it's, nothing you can do about it, right? How do we clean up that mess and, move on to the next thing, and of course avoid that happening again, if we can.
Yeah, I saw it was a video I saw the other day, and this guy was talking about like, making the right decisions, and like, how do you know if you made the right decision, or how do you know if you made the right choice? And it reminded me also of Obama. He was talking about decision making as the the president. Like, how do you know you made the right decision when there's so much weighing on the decision? And he said something about to the nature of you kind of just do the best that you can with the information that you've been given. Mm-hmm. And the gentleman that I saw, he was on this video. He was actually saying that there are good decisions and bad decisions, but you have to make a decision. And once the decision is made, you make that decision the right one based off of how you move going forward. So let's say, for instance, I decided to do something, and I'm like, man, I wish I didn't do that. Well, the experience of, saying, man, I wish I didn't do that, actually gives me some sort of life lesson that allows me to never make that decision again. So in a sense, it can be beneficial. And I wanted to know, like, what your thoughts are about that. Like, is that a mindset that is a good one, or should we be like putting that much pressure on the decision making?
I'm glad you said the last part about putting too much pressure, because that's exactly where my heart and my head was going, is that sometimes we do put too much pressure on ourselves. Sometimes we think that the decision that we're going to make is going to be either a life or death, right? If I make the wrong decision, death happens. If I leave the right decisions, everything is going to be perfectly and wonderful, and that's really never really the case. There are good decisions, yes. There are bad decisions. In either case, there's probably could have been better or worse decisions that you could have made. So, taking the pressure off to say that, and like you said with Obama, is that, in light of all the information I had, let me make the right decision. But I also want to add something that I've incorporated into my life. Part of taking the pressure off is, yes, a decision has to be made, but the timing of that decision is up to me. I never feel pressured to make decisions in the moment. It's a funny story, because I told this to one guy one time. My wife and I, we were at a timeshare presentation. And I sat there and I told the guy, I said, listen, my wife and I, we made a determination that we do not make decisions in the moment. We go back, think about them, sleep on them, and then, decide. This guy told me, oh, y'all going to be divorced in a year. I mean, literally, you guys going to be divorced in a year because you guys don't take vacations. That's not what I said. I just said we don't make decisions in the spare of the moment. Right? We, want our time to make the right decisions. And if that doesn't meet your timing, then evidently this opportunity wasn't for me.
I will say that, like, the times where I have made decisions without discussing with Tiffany were probably some of the worst decisions I've made, right? And I think that creates separation more than anything, where it's like, okay, I'm not seeking the person who I'm, living life with and choosing to live life with before I make a decision that may potentially affect both of us. And, I think it's the complete opposite of what he was saying, but I think that was mostly led by just wanting to make a sale.
Yeah, exactly.
Then,
what he was trying to do, and upset that he wasn't going to make one that day.
Yeah, exactly. But that has nothing to do with it. Just don't make. And I've said this a few times before. Don't make like your fire like my fire. Just because you are the house is burning down for you doesn't mean my house is burning down. And that's not for me to, I need to make a choice. I need to make a decision right now. No, move at your own pace and make your decision at your own time. And, I think that leads into like what I wanted to discuss with you is actually stewardship. And I think decision making is a part of stewardship. But biblically, what does it mean to be a good steward? And how can we, work towards like incorporating those type of things into our lives? Yep.
First of all, personally, I believe that stewardship has different facets to it, right? There's a monetary facet to it, how you get steward over our finances. There's a facet of how do you be good stewards of us, our body, physically, mentally, emotionally. We are stewards over what He's given us, this life that we have. And the third is stewardship over the gifts and talents and abilities that we either are born with or that we develop over time. Those, and then the fourth one would be relationships. How do we steward relationships well? So those are the four facets of stewardship, and we need to get better at each of those as our life progresses, right? Learning from what we see, what we've experienced, and then governing ourselves accordingly when it comes to that. So to me, good stewardship is doing our best and going back to making the right decisions about ourselves to begin with, right? We had a conversation around those fiery fries. May have been the best decision for me physically, for me to get those fries when I bought them. So in light of making that somewhat bad choice to buy them, the next thing it says, don't eat any more of them.
Yeah.
Throw the rest of that bag away because whatever value I think I'm going to get out of the rest of that bag is not going to be good for me physically, right? And so that's what, again, part of being a good steward is understanding what you need to steward over, making the best decision that you can make in regards to those areas, and then learning from the outcome.
Yeah.
Right? If I've had a horrible conversation with my wife that impacts our relationship, right? Then making sure that doesn't happen again, or that's healed as much as it can be healed going forward is my next best move, my next best actions as it relates to that, right? Same thing with my physical health. Doctor tells me you need to monitor your cholesterol, or your cholesterol is borderline. What are you going to do about it? You just let it continue to go out of control, or do you make life changes and choices to manage that stewardship, right? You got into a money, and you want to be a blessing to the church or to your community or to your family. What do you do with that, to set yourself up to make that a reality, and then walk in discipline in doing so?
Yeah. And how does that show up? Like, who should if we are seeking like to look for examples of that in the Bible, who would be someone that we would look towards doing that?
My go-to has always been, if I go to the Bible, I'm looking at Paul, the Apostle Paul, and how he speaks about stewardship and how he speaks about life, and in his letters to the Corinthians, and his letters to Timothy, and to some of the other churches, he speaks of the value of, and he clarifies some things for people, right? Like when it comes to giving, he says clearly, let a man, purposes in his own heart. How you purpose in your own heart, then you give. Understanding why you're giving, what you're giving for, what limits you have on your giving, and then give out of that understanding. Don't allow people to put their expectations on you, their view of what it is. No, you decide, purpose in your own heart, and I would say with the leading and direction of the Holy Spirit, this is what I'm going to do for my family. So that throws out a certain dollar amount or a certain percentage of my income or whatever. No, it's what the Holy Spirit is telling me, leading me to do at this moment with what I have and what I'm giving.
Yeah.
He lays that out for them in those books, and I see him doing that very well. Some people will throw on like Abraham is, and they'll talk about, he saw Melchizedek and he, gave a tenth of all to him, but they don't tell the whole story about what happened with Abraham in that sense. Mm-hmm. Abraham, some bad choices of his kin, some bad choices of his own, were in a situation and all this stuff was thrown at him, mm-hmm. pretty much. He didn't work for it, he didn't really do much for it, but it was there for him to give. That's just a rash decision in the moment that mm-hmm. he made that he thought would be honoring mm-hmm. To God. So that's some other examples in the midst of that. I think Daniel is another example of how he stewarded his relationship with God through the midst of turmoil in the country. Mm-hmm. Right? He valued his relationship with God so much that he's willing to lay down his life for it. He says, as part of my good stewardship of me spiritually, I pray this time of day at this particular time. Now the king and his advisors trying to switch that up. I'm going to still do what I know was right to do. Mm-hmm. So he stewarded his spiritual relationship in that moment in a way that could have cost him his life, but he knew he had the discipline to do what he knew was in his heart was right to do.
And so you just said the word discipline as mm-hmm. well, and I think that is somewhat of the difference between stewardship by design mm-hmm. and doing things just by chance.
Yeah.
And the discipline that is required to be a good steward is that you understand your finances, you understand your relationships, you understand the different facets of being a good steward, and you apply those disciplines on a daily basis so that when it is time to be a blessing to your relationship, be a blessing to your community, your family, you can do those things because you've been disciplined. And I like to relate a lot of this stuff back to sports because I grew up in sports and, I'm still in sports to this day. And I feel like, stewardship is not just, speaking to like how we are as leaders, but it's also how we are leading ourselves in our own lives. And so if you are a sports athlete, being a good steward of that sport is I'm dedicated and I'm consistently working towards that sport, and I'm doing the right things to get me to where I want to be, mm-hmm. so that when it is time to reap the rewards, I've known that I have done what needs to be done to be in position to do that. Mm-hmm. And so, that's kind of how like I like to like frame it. Mm-hmm. But there's examples in the Bible that allow us to see how those things play out, right? Mm-hmm. How like some of those decisions that, these people made in their in those stories can show us what we may receive if we act in those manners. With Operation Breaking Through, though, mm-hmm. we talked about it, earlier, about how when you took on this, this organization, it was not in good condition. And tell me about that.
Yep. So, like I said, we had, when I took over, did not know when I said yes, this was the situation. I quickly found out is that we lost our lease. We were thousands of dollars in debt. We may have been in a situation where it would have been difficult to even get our utilities turned on if we found another place. So that's the situation that we were in. But we were also engaged in some programs that we were doing just for the sake of doing. We did them in the past, we're doing them now, but we didn't have either the resources, we didn't have the volunteers, we weren't having the impact. And so I had to look at all of that through that lens of discipline, through that lens of doing what I believe is best for the organization, and make some decisions about, okay, well, we had a Hidden Treasures thrift store. Actually, it was one of the birth childs of mine that several years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, when we were going through financial crisis. How do we diversify our funds? Hey, let's open up a thrift store, and that's what we did. But now that was at the end of its life. And so one of the first decisions I made was we're cutting the thrift store. For one thing is that we had stuff stored in storage places costing us hundreds of dollars a month. We can no longer afford that. We got to liquidate all of that and let it go and decide, it's not the direction we're going to go with now. Some of our mentoring programs, we had to let go because we didn't have the resources, we didn't have the volunteers and the places to make them. So we cut out a lot of stuff. One thing, we eliminated salaries. The previous executive director had, was being paid for that. Said nope. From day one, didn't get paid a dime for this, and so we've been ever since then 100% volunteer based, and I prefer to keep it that way unless a windfall of a lot of money come through. That's, I guess, the model that works best. I think it tells people's heart towards the work and allows us the flexibility to do what really supports the needs of the client. So stripped away a lot of programs that we didn't do, fully focused on what we could do. We could provide food. We could provide blankets and toiletries. We could provide coats in the winter. We can give out toys for Christmas and things of that nature, things that we could do. And so we rebuilt ourselves around those things with the mindset of when we are able, we will start rebuilding and reestablishing some of the things that we used to do in the past, or what we believe needs to be done now in the moment.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's a great example.
To put a bow on that, right? From tens of thousands of dollars in debt to now where we have a significant surplus that I believe will sustain this organization for several years. Like, we don't have to worry about how we're going to pay the lease. We see that light at the end of the tunnel already, right? When we started, we knew what we could get to. So that's a different feel, a different freedom, without having those pressures, the financial pressures attached to what we're doing. It's been life-changing for us.
And even with that, that feeling, I was talking about somewhat similar, the feeling of I described it as motion, right? But I was saying that, once you start doing things that way, the discipline, the good stewardship, those are the acts that result in the feeling of being a good steward, or living in that reality, right? Of, okay, I've led this in the right direction. I've made good decisions. I've been disciplined, and that feeling of being able to, okay, we have the headspace and the room and the ability to see, okay, things are running properly, and so your mind is able to make better decisions, or have you're not rushed to say, okay, we need this timeshare today, but just you and Mother being in a situation where you're we don't make decisions without discussing it or sleeping on it first. That is being you've created an environment where good decisions can be made. Whereas if you are quick to make those decisions, or if you're making those decisions without haste or
Yep.
you know, I think you become in this space where it's like, okay, am I making this decision, and is it a good decision, or did I just rush to make a decision and now I'm stuck with the consequences of what I've decided?
Yep.
And it seems like OBT was operating in a direction of like, let's just try to do anything and something's going to work, instead of having a clear direction.
Clear decision. And then putting limiters or governors on ourselves, self-imposed stuff. One of the things that I put in place is into the bylaws and to the operating structure here is that, okay, I'm the executive director, but I have a board, and I obviously want to hold me accountable and to leverage and use. And so I said, okay, when it comes to OBT, any decision that involves $1,500 or more, Tim ain't making it.
Yeah, it goes to the board.
Yeah, it goes to the board for approval. The board has to tell me, give me the okay or the thumbs down when it comes to it. So that now I have that governor on me.
Yeah.
Right? And they know and they're aware of it. Hey, when we have our meeting, these are the things I'm going to bring to you. I can't do this, without your approval on it. I'll give you the information that you need to help me make the decision, and then that's how it happens. So anything less than that, I can make those decisions, but I put that governor there for them to have as a stopgap for me, or at least a control that says, hey, Tim is willing to be overseen by people that I believe have been there for that has a heart for this ministry, and this is how we're going to support them.
But I think we definitely talked about some of the factors of a what it means to be a good steward, and I think that I think you have been a good steward.
For the most part, there's
Yeah.
challenges, personally, but
Yeah.
challenges.
I mean, I think you're a good example of what a good steward is, and just seeing what you've been able to do with this, seeing what you've been able to do for your family, and just what you've been able to do in your career and things like that. I think you've been a good steward of those things, and you have stayed dedicated and consistent with those things. And I really want to know, though, you grew up in not the best of circumstances. And I think that's what has led your heart in a way to do this, to do Operation Breaking Through. Where because I talked about the story, like being able to tell yourself the stories of okay, you have these experiences, and then you tell yourself the story, and then you become that thing. And as we grow up and we have these experiences, I know you were good at school, you were good at math, and you were good at, a lot of things when it came to academics. But you didn't necessarily come from that. Nope. And so I want to know not only what experiences you had that allowed you to tell the story to yourself and become the person that you are, become the steward that you are, but then also who were there any examples of that in your life that made you that helped you become that, or what was that just something that you?
Yeah, so there's a couple levels to that. One of them is I believe there was examples of that in my home, but it was never spoken of. It was just observation. When basically my parents didn't sit me down at the table and said, "Hey, Tim, you're going to be this and this and this, and this is how we conduct ourselves as Davidsons, and we do this." It was none of that. It was just living in the moment and seeing what they did to put food on the table. to keep us a roof over our heads. Yes, I didn't grow up in the rest of circumstances. Much of it I wasn't completely aware of, right? Like, we lived in a rental house, less than a block and a half from here. Not in the greatest of neighborhoods. I remember the night vividly when an intruder tried to break in our back door. Mm-hmm. Drunk guy, don't know who he is, and literally having to see my dad had to fight him out the door. Mm-hmm. Dad was in the military, so he knew something about, hand-to-hand combat. So he, was able to get this man out of our house. And then I thought we moved to projects in Glen, on 42nd Street here, Marshall Courts. Not the greatest of environments to grow up in as a kid. But I saw my family, my parents, they did the best that they can. I don't even want to say some of the stuff that we endured while we were in Marshall Courts, but it was not very good. But my parents kept a smile on their face and walked us through it until the dad came home that day with the keys to a house in Hampton. Mm-hmm. My mom to this day don't know how that happened, but he got them to give a mortgage for a house, and we were able to move out of the neighborhoods. But one of the things that while I was here, living down here, I got bused 13, 15 miles up to Denby. Mm-hmm. I guess it was integration going on at that time. That must be up there. So I was in the class. Like I said, I did well in school, so I was maybe one of the only black kids in my class. The segregation piece plus, what they were teaching me put me in those spaces. I remember one day when we had physical fitness tests. Mm-hmm. I would typically, go out and just run the course, and beat everybody. On this particular day, when we were getting graded, for our scores on the test, I remember my teacher gently, not forcefully, she says, "Go," and she held me. Mm-hmm. And really let all the other kids run literally a half a lap ahead of me. Uh-huh. And then she let me go.
Wow.
So, but instead of me being mad, I took it as a challenge. Uh-huh. And I ran down every last one of those kids. Mm-hmm. And finished first. Now, whether or not she knew I was going to do that, mm-hmm. or she was hoping that I would give up, I don't know. But I know what decision I made in that moment was, I'm going to run every last one of these kids down.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of the mindset I've had ever since, mm-hmm. is no matter what the challenge I face, I am going to, give it my best, and no one is smarter than me, no one is better than me. Mm-hmm. So when it came to whether it was football or academics, I just believed in myself and believed mm-hmm. what I was able and capable of doing.
Yeah.
So those are, again, challenging moments, and there's many other challenging moments that maybe I want to talk about in this setting. But all of them, I believe my mindset about who I was and what I was capable of allowed me to overcome those things.
I can't pinpoint a particular moment, but I do remember like just having that same sort of, I don't know, I knew that if I wanted to do it, I could do it, mm-hmm. right? And as soon as I decided to do it, that I would figure out in whatever way I could do it. But that story of like your teacher holding you back, it's such an interesting story. I've never heard that story, by the way. It's my first time hearing that story, and it's a very interesting story. And I see like a little bit of me in that. And you had sent me a video not too long ago about something similar to this, which was a video about like knowing your history and where you came from. Basically instills a sense of confidence in the future generations. That you sent me that video, right? And so like even me understanding and hearing like who you are and what you've gone through, it helps me tell myself the story of like, okay, this is who I come from and what I come from, and it instills a sense of identity as well, that like this is your lineage and what you come from, and then and it allows you to overcome some of the other stories that may not be true that you may tell yourself, I guess, right?
Yep.
And so, and instead of having the influence of someone else tell you who they think you are, and instead of knowing who you are and where you come from, like knowing your childhood, knowing I knew Grandpa, I didn't know him that well, but I did know he was in the military, but like I didn't get to experience him in that way, right? And so like hearing you talk about him in that way, it makes me feel a little bit more understanding of what I come from, if that makes sense. So with that video that you sent me, how can we do a better job of doing that for not only ourselves but also for the future generations?
Yeah, I think it's the better job that we can do is actually prioritize it and make the opportunities happen for those type of conversations. It's like we're having right now. I was looking forward to this conversation because there's a lot of things that like in our past, our family history that I still haven't passed on to you. You know, you're almost, hitting a milestone birthday soon.
Yeah.
In a few years, and still there's just a lot of stuff that you don't know about my dad. Or your mom and I mean my mom and your mother, your grandmother, excuse me, about their history. Like, you don't know that your grandmother was in this area, was one of the first classes of black nurses to get certified as nurses in this area. Both of your grandmothers,
of them, right? Yeah, they did it together.
Both of them were part of that that trend. You wouldn't know that your dad or your granddad was worked for a contracting company that built the dry docks at the shipyard. It cost him dearly in his health, but he was one of the ones to and while he was laboring in that, he had no idea that his son would graduate from engineering school
and work at
that very same shipyard, working on some of the most sophisticated ships in the world, in those very same dry docks. As a refueling engineer. But that's where how legacies are created and legacies are built. But being able to tell those stories, capture those stories, so that people know where they come from, and they know what they're capable of. Even in the most adverse situations. I remember when my dad used to, at the latter part of his life, because he always worked, working, picking up garbage in York County. One day he comes home with this TV that was broken. I mean, it was the picture. Fuzzy couldn't get a big picture on it. He said, "Tim, I don't know what you can do with this, but I found it. It was laying on the street, and he brought it home to me. First TV that me and your mom had in our house was this TV.
Wow.
I fiddled around with it, got the picture perfect. It was a 25-inch console TV, one of the biggest. Back then, it was a big TV.
The back on it.
And that thing lasts 10 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Uninterrupted. 10 years worked perfectly in our home. But something he picked off of the trash joke that he didn't know whether it was going to work or not. But he had the sense of picking up, put in this car. I don't know how he got it home. Again, I don't know how he got it home. Got it to home, and I got it to my house or to our apartment, and served this one for 10 years. I had to buy a TV for 10 years.
Wow.
I don't know if you remember this story. We were, you were playing a high school basketball team, and all of you guys on the team had selected these certain sneakers that you guys, tennis shoes that you guys were going to wear on the team. And you were trying to get a pair.
Uh-huh.
And I think, I don't know if you had a game that weekend or whatever. So we went to our local store, and it wasn't there. Mm-hmm. They called the store in Norfolk. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, we got a pair, but we're about to close in 20, 30 minutes. I'm not sure what time it was. And your thought was, Dad, we're not going to make it. Mm-hmm. I said, son, we're going to try anyway. Yeah. We got in that car. We had to go through the tunnel. We were getting there. He was, several times during the trip, you were saying, Dad, we're not going to make it. We're not going to make it. We got into the mall, ran down to the store. They were closed the door down. Yeah. And I looked the lady in the eye. I said, "That's a pair of shoes. I need to get in there." Yeah. She pulled that door back up.
Wow.
Let us get the shoes that you wanted. Yeah. And I remember my response to you was, "Son, never give up."
Yeah.
Never ever give up.
Yeah.
You never know what's gonna be. So that pushing through.
Yeah.
And I think that stuck with you. Yeah. Somehow, some way that.
I believe so.
Experience.
I believe so. I think that's something that like. I can't even remember how old I think I was probably. I know. I think I know the shoe. I just can't think of the name of the shoe or what we did, because back then it was very much so we had to have matching pair of shoes. Uh-huh. And I do remember that story now that you say it. And I think one of the things that I've had an issue with is like keeping track of those things, right? Understanding like some of those experiences that I have had and where I get the mindset and the aptitude that I do have. But you know, the story and the backstory of your life, you know, grandpa's life and just those experiences, I think those lead to me having a little bit more confidence in who I am and who my children are, you know, your grandsons and what they are capable of doing. But spending the time to explain to them what they come from and what experiences they've had. I mean, even with Jaden, you know, I always try to remind him that he almost drowned when he was a kid. Yeah. And like I just think that's such an amazing story for a kid like that who's now, you know, this past weekend he ranked 9th in the state for the breaststroke. That being his story is an amazing comeback story for him. And I think it seems like we come from a line of that, right? And just knowing that's where we come from is amazing. And I think one of the things that I wanted to conclude and get to is that, you know, these are great concepts and great thoughts, but at the end of the day, none of this works unless you actually implement and do the work. We talked about project management. We talked about different things that we have experienced in our work life, but none of this stuff works unless you start implementing and doing the work. Exactly. And so, like, moving forward, like in hearing what you have to say and hearing what I come from, I want to implement things that can help me tell that story and help me, you know, carry on with that identity of knowing who I am, who I come from, and what, you know, I'm capable of. And so, in the next video, I definitely want to talk about implementing those things and what that looks like. and taking some actionable steps towards that. But yeah, that's it, Dad.
Well, again, appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation. There's many more conversations that we can have in regards to this topic and the others as well, because I think it's needful, it's meaningful, and it's important. Because there's so many things I want to say to you, and actually I'm going to end with this. When I introduce people to my son, one of the things that I say to them is that he is a much better engineer than I ever was. Because I know what I've seen you do. I knew, I had an amazing career as an engineer at the shipyard, 12, 13 years, working on some of the most sophisticated ships in the world, doing something for the first time that no one's ever done in regards to refueling an aircraft carrier with 8 nuclear reactors on it after it's been out for 50 years, and what it took to sort of get ourselves there. But it pales in comparison to what I see in you as an engineer. It's stuff that you. I remember remember you helped me build our first deck and our fence at the house when you were 12 years. I think it was 11 or 12 years old. You helped me build it, and then to go to your house many years later, and you planning, project man, to build your first deck on your house.
Yeah.
And I remember your words. He said, "Dad," I said, "Okay, well, great, son. What design?" He said, "Dad, but I'm not going to build a simple deck."
Yeah.
I said, "Okay, all right." And you showed me your design that you had laid out for it. And then to see that deck materialize. And we did a simple deck.
Yeah.
Way back in the day. But it, compared to what you had laid out and what you put your heart and soul into building for your own family. Again, this is one point in the case of a much better engineer than you are, than I ever was. You've taken that discipline to another level for you, and it's great to see. And I can only imagine what that will translate into my grandsons.
Yeah.
Into my granddaughter, right? And the generations that follow them. So, always an engineer. You became an engineer, always an engineer. You have a mind of an engineer, and that it shows in the things that you do, and the excellence in which you do them. Yep. I know that last project you had in your bedroom. Amazing. So, anyway, stuff like that I need to be sharing with you.
Well, thank you, Dad. I appreciate it. I think we definitely need to have these conversations more often, because I mean, there's a lot for me to share with you as far as like just what you've given me, but also like to understand about who you are and where you come from. And I know bits and pieces, but I remember on my way down here, I had to explain to the boys like what this was like, and they were like, "Oh, I didn't know that Grandpa did that." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, your grandpa, he's done this and he's done this." And so like giving them the opportunity to understand what they come from and who they are, and that they can identify with the fact that they've came from something, and you giving me the experiences that you've given me, doing the things that you've done. I think that leads to me understanding, like, what my father has done is the bare minimum, right?
Yep,
and it's my job and my children's job to take that and move forward and take it to the next level. And I think we all want to see that in the next generation. Is like, I'm the stepping stone for you to go and do more with. And so you provide those opportunities for me. And I'm appreciative of it. So thank you for spending the time to talk to me.
Oh yeah, this has been a pleasure. Yeah.